So relationships should be equal. But ladies want a guy to be a good leader, to bring in more money, to be stronger, to do more protection. What can women offer that's going to equal that out so it can be 50-50 if he's bringing more finance, strength, leadership, and things that ladies want?
What
And
can women offer?
yeah, because he's helping with all the traditional feminine tasks with the cleaning, household making, things like that. So what can ladies offer to balance that out, and just in general?
What can well, first of all, they have the privilege to be with us. Okay. Second of all, um, we're the better cooks. We're the better cleaners. We're the better mothers. Better, you know, people to handle our children.
It would be hard for us to be better moms. Yeah.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Other Guys podcast. We are your hosts, AD.
Coattail.
Ishabe.
Yes, sir. And we're here. We are one member short today. He had some country shit going on that we don't need to get into. When he first sent that message, I was like, bro, that is country as country gets. But he'll be here next time. But let's get into the show, right? So let me hit this soundboard. Today's question. You guys try not to laugh. Are modern women stingy? Okay, so that is the question that we're posing today on the show, and I figured we talk about like how did it come about, right? So this question was posed by myself, and it's obvious everything I say is an overgeneralization, but that's just how I live my life. All right, very black and white.
No, real talk.
That really is how I live my life. And so from what I've noticed, right? Last time we talked about polygamy versus monogamy, which is better for men and women and all that. From what I've noticed, the most prominent, the highest earning, the highest status men in any society typically practice polygamy, right? They have multiple women, and the women they just know what it is, right? It's in order to have a guy of the status, I'm going to have to share him, right? And so what I'm seeing is men who raise their status and raise their value in society, they typically, even if they start with one woman, they don't get rid of that woman. They bring more women into the fold, right?
Yeah.
And on the other end of the spectrum, women who tend to get rich, get status, get famous, whatever you want to call it, they tend to stay more single the richer that they get, right? So our modern women stingy is obviously in context to a relationship, but it's also, it's financial, right? You have I can't think of one male guy of status who talks about how great it is to be single or how you should be okay and enjoy your single journey. But we have the Tracy Ellis Rosses of the world, right? Before she got married, we had the Gabrielle Unions of the world, right? And they just talk about their singleness and their single journey. Everything what a woman is a fucking journey, right? We talked about that. And so it just looks like instead of saying, hey, and some of them, maybe they want to be single, but instead of saying I am inadequate when it comes to gaining and maintaining relationships, they talk about enjoying being single. And, you can do whatever the hell you want, but it's just interesting. And then I think about women in my personal life who I know who, went from here to here financially. So I used to be in life insurance, right? And in my company, there was one guy who, he was there at the beginning. He went from making, $50,000, $100,000 to $1 million a year. And he's on his third or fourth marriage at this point, or engagement. And there's one lady who started at the same time as him, everything. She's $500,000 earner. She's been single throughout, and she's beautiful. She's gorgeous, right? And so, again, it's just another example of women tend to stay more single the higher their income goes. Right. Or at least that's what I've noticed. I could be absolutely wrong. What do you guys think?
Yeah. So when we look at the aspect of generosity and, kind of like you were talking about, like the more, essentially, you didn't say it directly, but seeming that the more men make, the more likely they are to be generous in some capacity. Yeah, there's some rich asshole out there for sure. But, they're taking on more women. They are, providing for them in some capacity. So they are essentially giving more and more versus women do not. I think the two biggest factors that will influence that is that, one, I think the older a woman is, the more likely she is to be giving. And I think the lower she is socioeconomically, she's more likely as well. Now the way
To be giving. Okay.
Yes. So now you have this crossroads of like if you have a young woman who's broke, well, she's probably more likely to be selfish in some capacity because like, yeah, she's, not well off financially, but she's also young, so she's going to be stingy. So I think the age is the most important factor. But if it's not making sense. Essentially that think two women who make the same income, one older, one younger, the older woman will be more giving than the younger. That makes sense.
Okay. So I have a question for you, but go ahead and give your thoughts first.
Yeah, I think men or women are opposites, and people don't give enough credit to, or they don't acknowledge the fact that we are animals. We have instincts. We're not these modern creatures like robots. We don't start blank. Okay. Right. And it's not all how you are brought up. It's instinct. And we're opposites. We have to be opposites to attract. So men, we acquire and then we give. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. That's our mating strategy. That's what we do. We build so that way women will come, and then we can provide for a family, provide for women. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. Now, for women to want to be a part of that system, they have to want to take. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's you have to have both. If both people wanted to give, and they had, then the other party wouldn't need anything from the other, because they both have to give. I don't need anything from you.
That's the first time you said something that wasn't radical. I started here and you kind of brought it down and made it, palatable. But fair. No, I agree that it makes complete sense. Yeah, so question for you.
Yeah.
I guess 2-part question. First part is giving and sharing the same thing, right? And when I think of that, because I have quite a few, like my friends are always weird. Like I do things that like old white people do, right? So like I play tennis. It's mostly old white people there, right? Yeah, sure. I used to be a part of Toastmasters, which is an organization that teaches leading, and just mostly old white people. It's just usually what it is. And I have a lot of older people who are friends. Now, specifically, the 2 examples that come to mind right now are black women, but both are over the age of 60. Both are used to be married. Both are financially well off, whether it's they saved the money themselves or a husband passed away and left life insurance, whatever, right? And so both of those women talk about relationships with men as if they're on equal footing, and or I guess they're in a place financially where they don't have to, whatever, man. So one of them specifically said, and she was a single mother most of her life. She said, she's dating a guy, and this guy really wants to marry her. Like, he's like, hey, why won't you marry me? Now, again, they're both in their 50s, 60s. And she's like, well, she didn't say it directly, but she's like, if I, marry you, then legally you're entitled to my assets. But I built this life and this lifestyle with my son, so I want to leave everything to him.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So now she's speaking like that because, again, she's older, she's experienced, and she's wealthy. So, but a 20-year-old couldn't speak that way. You know what I'm saying? She would need a man. And so what I ask back to is giving and sharing the same thing. I'm thinking a young lady who's in a relationship with a man, let's say she's broke or whatever, she may not be giving anything, but she is sharing her time, her energy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So is that the same thing? And so also I would say, from what I've seen, the older a woman gets, the less likely she is to share. So in the context of a romantic relationship.
Yeah. So let me throw this down. So I think an easier way to make sense of what I said about the age being a factor one way and financial socioeconomic status being a factor the other way is that I think a woman who has the security of, I say a family, but main part of that is man being a financial provider, makes more than her, et cetera. I think once she has that security, she is more likely she is okay with sharing resources with the family.
Okay.
I would see that to be true. And then you look at maybe a woman, regardless of how much money she has, if it's like dating someone, it's obviously not quite at that family stage yet. So it's like, I'm not sharing my resources because I think a woman who, is dating somebody, like, I worked hard, I'm not going to share all this stuff I work for, blah, blah, blah. But if it's like, my husband of 20 years and, like 2 kids, like, I think it'd be weird for her to be resistant to sharing those resources because now this is like your family. It's like thoroughly established. This is your family, as opposed to before it's like some random dude or perspective.
Yeah.
I think there are some interesting anomalies to that rule that we can talk about, and that's where you get the. I'll briefly summarize that. I know we got some more stuff to get into, but essentially, we've all known a chick who was like spending all her money or whatever, providing for like an ancient dude.
And we look at them like they're stupid.
Exactly.
I see what you're saying.
And I think I would
saying.
imagine in that is that for a variety of reasons, there is a lack of certainty on being able to obtain a family, right? So it's like, I need to make sure I secure this, right? Because if I think I have options, I'm getting handed, then why would you do all that? And that's why, when we look at certain aspects of modern women, they think they got all the options in the world. You know what I mean? So those other women where it's like they really don't think they can get any man. Yeah, they'll, let some dude, just like let her, drive her car, drive him, or I guess, let him take the car even though he ain't working.
Bring it back on E.
Yeah.
The Jodies of the world. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so I think that's that anomaly there.
Okay. All right. I'm looking at Isha. I know he wants to get in the video. Let's go ahead and roll the clip. Do you want to give any kind of introduction to the video, or you want to just jump into it?
Well, we can just jump into it, but one thing I don't think we made clear to the audience is that we come up with these questions ourselves and lay them out to help paint this picture. But we come up with these ourselves, so these are our own interviews. You won't find them anywhere else. And we're going to be putting up the full interviews without commentary on Patreon.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot about that.
So
okay, absolutely.
So let's go ahead and jump into it.
Let's do it, Jay. I'm excited. How you said?
All right. So in relationships, do you think relationships should be equal?
Absolutely. I mean, like, they're a partnership, right? Like, you put in 50%, they put in 50%. And there are times where if you've been together for so long and if you know that sometimes your partner might be going through a rough patch, right? You give more. But absolutely, they should be equal. You should be giving, you should be both participating equally, I think, for it to be successful.
Cool. Okay, should relationships be equal? Yes.
I mean, for the most part, sometimes it might be 60-40, depending,
Okay.
But for the most part, it should be equal.
Yes. I say yes.
You don't got to be politically correct.
No. I say yes.
Okay.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes
or no? Yes or no?
You said yes or no?
And no.
Yes and no.
I don't know. I just feel like some things are not. How can I say this? It's just not for both genders. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I believe in equal rights. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
You're a traditional man.
I'm a traditional man, of course.
Yeah.
I know you.
That's what all the ladies want anyway. So
I want to be that guy, like, I'm not saying that guy, but I mean, how can I say this? In the relationship, I want to be not going to say alpha, but, I want to be how can I say this, bro? Like,
Yeah, like that. The alpha.
yeah, yeah. I just, what I'm
say.
saying? Alpha, I guess, I feel like I believe in doing all the work, for the lady or whatever, household, whatever. I just feel like you said, I'm a traditional man, so I feel like women should stick to,
to be traditional. Okay.
But I respect all feelings and thinking, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I feel like they should be, but they're not.
They should be, but they're not. Okay. What's not equal about them for you ladies right now? Where are the guys? Do you think that that you not doing it, bringing it, or is the guy not bringing it to make it equal?
I feel like once a guy gets you, they don't bring the same energy that they did at first. So
That part.
It's never gonna be equal, if that makes sense. Like, they start off doing something that they can't keep going with. Like, they can't keep holding on.
Okay. So, do you think a man's, like, let's say you're in a relationship, you have kids, you think men should help around the house?
Oh,
Yes.
for sure.
Say they should be doing helping
Yes,
the kids, the house.
If I'm gonna carry a child for 9
Right.
months and push this big-headed ass, can I curse right here? Sorry. But, like, push this big-headed ass baby out
of my hole that's this big.
out of my lady parts, and you want me to work a 40-hour work week,
sound
then
like she
come home
wanna
and
get
do
on.
housework and take care of the kid that I just carried for 9
And all
months.
you do is go to work and eat the food that I cook.
Okay.
Okay. And so you think for being equal, you think a guy should help more at the house. So like, when you guys have kids, things like that, should he be putting in just as much and working just as hard for at the house, cooking, cleaning, helping out with things like that nowadays?
It's their kids as well. It's both of your guys' house. I mean, the responsibility should be equal. I don't see why it wouldn't be. I mean, and sometimes that's just how relationships work, but I feel like it should be equal.
Yeah, of course.
Cleaning and things like that.
Yes, sir.
You being equal to their ladies?
Yeah.
Okay, I like your answer, but I'm going to oppose you. And I'm going to say that, like, as much as you want a relationship to be 50-50, sometimes it's going to be 80-20. Sometimes you have to take care of the kids and, like, husband's at work. Like, sometimes you have a heavier workload than your spouse, but it's about, like, communicating and understanding that, like, sometimes things shift, and it just kind of depends on what season of life you're in.
No, I really appreciate that. Like, I love that answer.
Oh, Sarah.
Let me ask you. So, and both of you actually. So, should a guy make more money in the relationship?
Doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter.
Don't matter.
But just in general, do you think your guy should make less than you, the same amount of money as you, or more than you?
That's such a tough question. I mean, it just depends on what they're doing, but I feel like as long as they're pursuing something, right, or making an effort or bringing in income, you know, and working towards a goal, I'm not going to put pressure and say, oh, you need to make more than me. That's just my opinion, right? And there are some, I know that there's women out there who say, like, I need a man to take care of me.
Right.
And while that's nice, I mean, for me being 27, I'm still trying to figure out who I am. So I can't expect a man who's around my age to be perfectly in a position and set. So
I tell people I wasn't grown until I was 28. So I wasn't a grown man. Okay.
yeah. So
And so, okay, so, but for preference-wise, would you want your guy, which one would you want? Less, the same amount, or more? Preference.
I mean,
It's okay to be honest. You could like,
okay, what girl wouldn't want to be like taken care of, right?
Right.
But you know, if we could like level each other out and like be on the
So right here, so what we established is, you know, the politically correct thing and what most ladies want, partnership. They want the relationship to be equal. They want it to be treated equally, and they want men to 50%, right? And that's what it sounds like, right? This is what they want. And
Wait, because I'm not sure I got the same thing out of that. So your first question is, are relationships equal? Or should they be equal?
Yeah, should
they
they?
said yes.
Yep.
You talked about housework. The answer was overwhelmingly yes, at least from the ladies.
right.
And then how many of
Dudes
them
as
did
well.
you ask the question about money? Was that all of them or?
Well, it'll pop up more later as well, but
Okay.
pretty much everybody gets asked the same question. Everyone gives the same initial response. You know, you got to kind of push.
Yep.
As you can see, because people don't want to admit it, but obviously they do. And eventually they get to it, and you'll see. But the first line of question it just establishes where the mindset is. You want equality.
Right.
If I'm doing something, if I'm taking care of the kids, you're helping me. It's 50%. Housework is 50%. All the traditionally feminine roles, men need to help 50%.
Yeah.
Period.
Got it.
Got
That's
to.
what you're saying.
I thought it was interesting. You know, the dudes co-signed on that as well.
Yeah, but those were Hispanic dudes. Not meaning like there's only one set of dudes. Well, okay. First dude, I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. Beta male vibes, right? And then the other dudes, that's just what I and I'm not just
Nah, I
saying
got
from the
the same
video.
vibe, too.
I'm saying from meeting him, right? Because there are comments that she made that like they weren't putting men down, but essentially they were putting men down, and he'd shake his head like, yeah, you know, she's right. And it's like, okay, bro. So he didn't seem like the type to stand up to for you know, stuff like that. And then other dudes, great guys. I don't see black men saying that. I don't see them immediately agreeing of housework should be 50%. I just don't see that. So I think maybe it's a cultural thing. Is what I'm getting at.
Well, actually, in Hispanic families, traditional, you can hear his accent. You can tell he want to be the Hispanic guy said he wanted to be the alpha.
Yeah.
They have the girls serve the boys. You know, so even your brothers get served like your father does.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
so that's how it works there. But for black men, there's actually studies that show we participate most in household work and child rearing more than any other sex. I mean, not sex, excuse me, but any other race. Black men do. And I'll tell people, this is people might drag me for. I was like, and I tell people, and people will be surprised. Yeah. And they'll ask, and I was like, the most feminine men are black men, and they'll be like, what? That. No, they're not. Yep. And I was like, no. I was like, because I think there's a YouTuber, I forget her name, but I'm gonna have to give her credit. The first time I heard this term, but she's like, we live in our women are gynocrats. We live in a gynocentric community, and that's where we're raised. And so,
I mean, is that the same as a matriarchy? Essentially,
yeah, exactly.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, and so we live in a matriarchy. It's gynocratic, and that's what we're raised in. So that's how we roll. So the men, you'd be surprised, they probably be right along the same line.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see that. Of course, the statistics person to me is curious how that breaks down by age. I would imagine like older men maybe not as much, but I could see modern men, maybe 40 and under or something like that.
You're probably more like 50.
And you know what's interesting? This is a comment I meant to make earlier before we got into the video about the stinginess. I remember maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I heard for the first time a woman say, "I'm tired of dating down." Right? Have you guys heard that term before?
Yeah.
Okay. And it didn't sit well in my spirit. At first I was like, what do you mean, right?
Yeah.
But it was like, bro, men have taken care of poor women like throughout history. The first time that switches is dating down. To me, it almost sounds like you've given someone too much power and you're kind of you're starting to see who they are, right? It's like, dating, like I've never heard a man use that term ever towards any woman.
Well, you can basically call cities or their civilization, the way that we live now is artificial. It's not the real world. Okay. And it takes a lot to be able to live the way that we do. Right. It takes like to do one thing to make a phone call, probably be 1,000 people involved in running have you make that one phone call.
Network and everything. Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. Everything that goes into it. The inventions, the patents, probably 1,000 people get paid every time we blink, right? Just for this stream. So we live in an artificial environment and it is not in accordance. It doesn't run along with our nature. And so people are getting confused. And that's really what's happening. They're getting confused. So they live in this world and they're like, okay, so when women say I'm independent, you think about it, independent of what?
Yeah.
What are you independent of?
I don't need no man.
Yeah, because what are you independent of? Because, the United States is independent because we fought a war and we won independence. Okay. We have an Independence Day. Yeah. And I don't recall women having an Independence Day where they had to fight this great war. Because there isn't one. They just like, oh, I'm independent of a man. But what does that mean? Who was you? So you were being oppressed. Right? It has to be, just think about that to even say that I'm independent. I don't think most people have even thought about that. Yeah. The ramifications, like just the anything about that, to understand that sentence in and of itself. They just say, I'm independent. I pay my own bills. You never hear a man say, I'm independent.
They sound stupid.
I'm a strong, independent man. I pay my own bills. You say. Yeah.
That's like saying, hey, I'm a functioning adult. Give me a cookie. It's like, you're not homeless and you have food in your fridge. That's not. Yeah. But we clap for women. As if it's a badge.
Which is condescending. Which is, you can do what a man does. But if you say that, then you'll get, they'll come after you. But it's really like, you're strong and independent. Oh, good job. Oh, that man pays his own bills. He should. He a man. But like I say, we live in an artificial world. And so now, since there are so many things, and honestly, just a huge infrastructure of men supporting them, it's basically like being, and this is like a community-wise, because we all take care of all the women here. We all pay pay taxes. So we're talking about the single moms who need support. Where they're getting support from? These ladies who are going to school. Their parents aren't paying for that from them. They're getting loans from the government that we're paying taxes on. So everyone is supporting them. So they're like, well, I get support from everybody, so I don't independently need anybody. Individually, I mean to say. And so without thinking about it too deeply, then it just goes, oh, I'm just strong and independent. Because they just don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, kind of like to that point, but also on a separate point, I think one of the biggest challenges that society has with a lot of modern views, it's that it's a focus on what people want or what feels good or what they like, without the full picture of like, what is a trade-off? What are the ramifications? What are the consequences of stuff, right? Because this independence, it's even putting nature aside, and not really, but technically putting nature aside for a second, right? You can say, you know what, if you want to do this, that's fine, but to expect that there's no trade-off with that is where the problem is. You know what I mean?
I think you can't get there in the first place, because to be modern means to be, today, if you think about it, means to be without nature, without your instinct. So we just blank, like this cell phone.
Yeah.
So I could just program this cell phone any way I want, and it's going to change. That's not how people work. We are born with software. Because it took us millions of years to evolve to get here. And so we're not blank slates.
Yeah, and anytime, to really oversimplify my point further, is like anytime we look at what you want instead of what you need, there's a problem, right? I want to eat that cake. You know what? That's good cake. I want to eat cake every day. You know what I mean?
I love his
like,
examples, man.
Because it's so stupid. It illustrates the point. So it's like, if I eat cake every day, you know what? Okay, feels good. I like it, and that's the culture we live in. If you like it, do it. Trade-off is cake is not what you need. You're going to get sick. You're going to get overweight. You're going to get diabetes, all these different things. And so in a similar fashion, we talk with women, okay, it's like, you know what, it feels good to make money. I mean, men or women, you know, you're going to, regardless of age, gender, whatever, it's nice to make money. It's never a negative feeling. However, when you get to the point where you're excluding other things of independent, what is the trade-off for that? Because the other part of that, if you look at the traditional female roles, it's like, okay, I'm dependent, you know, maybe financially on a man. What is that trade-off? I'm provided, I'm protected, I'm cared for, all those different things, and that's a trade-off that was perfectly acceptable for a lot of women in the past.
You're right, because they don't think that. Like, I have a friend who swears up and down she wants to get married, right? She's on and on forgetting her current relationship. And one day we were just having a casual conversation, and I was like, so do you want to get married? And she was like, yeah, specifically to the guy you're dating. She's like, yeah, sometimes I do, sometimes. And then I was like, well, what if you hit the lottery? Well, and then would you want to get married? Then she's like, well, shit, what I need a nigga for then? So it was like literally that was it, right? So we talk about, you know, reducing a man to his wife. Like a lot of women do that. Like it's just second nature. Like they're unaware that they do it.
We live in an artificial world, so that finance is security, and like I always say, a woman's sexuality is tied to her. Security is tied to her sexuality, and vice versa. So, and they have recognized finance as security, and so now they say I can get the bag from here, I can get it back. It doesn't matter where I get it from, as long as I get it, then I'm good. And then they want, but it's next level. Let's jump back into it.
Let's do it.
So we established they want things to be equal.
50-50.
50-50.
Be on the same page, like that's great too.
Okay, so do you want your guy to make more money than you, the same amount of money as you, or less money than you?
I wouldn't want him to make less than me, but equal amount of money or more than me would be okay with me.
What's the preference?
I would prefer at least equal.
Yeah, I was about to say at least equal.
At least equal? Wait, is there a preference for him to make more? Yeah, today it seems like
I don't really care. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me. I mean, my man makes more than me right now. So.
If it starts affecting stuff, then, you know, I would have a conversation like, hey, like, maybe one of us needs to make some more money, find something that make it more money. But other than that, like, I don't feel like that's a big issue.
Do you think that most women want guys that make more money?
Yes.
Guys got to perfectly balance it. Like, hey, bro, you're like 50 cents less than me. You need to step it up. You need to at least be right here with me.
And I like cleaning, so that's easier for me to do. But it definitely has to be equal. It can't be like the woman's role is cleaning and the men's role is being a leader for the household. It has to be equal.
Congratulations on grabbing an accountant, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
What does your husband do?
He works for the county courthouse.
Okay, so
it's complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, so you got stability.
Yes.
Somebody always got to count the money, and the government is always
Yes.
So that's good.
Yes.
Okay, so you ladies, you should write a book for other people your age, like
how to be married at 23.
How to land a guy in 1 year.
Exactly. Okay, so let's take it away from you ladies personally. You know, do you think that most women want guys who make less than them, an equal amount, or more than they do?
I definitely think it can be difficult just because a typical man really desires to be respected and also to provide for his family.
it might be a difficult step if the woman makes more, but I think it is possible, and it is something for communication and to decide together, like, hey, like, I make more than you and we have kids at home. How do you feel about staying at home?
Oh, what do you think it is for most people? You think ladies like guys that make more money?
Pretty much, yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So,
I think men are intimidated by women who make more money than them.
you think so?
Yeah, because they're pussies. Can I say that?
You can say that.
I just
Yeah.
Can you stand
Okay,
up for me, please?
so men are intimidated, you think, whenever women make more. Okay. So in the relationships, whenever the guy's making more. So let me ask you, do you think most women want a guy to be stronger, the same strength as her, or weaker than her?
Stronger.
Stronger. And we established already they want the guys to make more money. Now, and should your guy be stronger than you, roughly the same strength as you, or weaker?
Stronger how? Like, what do you?
Stronger, physically.
Physically?
Yeah, and even mentally, should a guy be able to handle more so he can be your rock? If something happened and he crying before you, how would you feel?
If something happened and he cries before me,
Yeah,
I mean, it depends on what happened.
I'm talking about in general. It's like if it's in general, if things would happen and he would break down, and you're like, babe, it's okay.
Yeah, like I'd be like, it's okay. I don't know. This is weird. Like I never thought about it, but like, I'm not gonna judge him for it. You know, like I'm not gonna.
Preference-wise, would you prefer a strong man who you would cry before he did? In situations that's tough, all the bills are up, and we short, anything like that.
Yeah, I guess you would want a strong man. I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So relationships should be equal, but ladies want a guy to be a good leader, to bring in more money, to be stronger, to do more protection. What can women offer that's going to equal that out, so it can be 50-50 if he's bringing more finance, strength, leadership, and things that ladies want?
What can women offer?
Yeah, because he's helping with all the traditional feminine tasks, with the cleaning, household making, things like that. So what can the ladies offer to balance that out, and just in general?
First of all, they have the privilege to be with us. Okay. Second of all, we're the better cooks. We're the better cleaners. We're the better mothers. Better, people to handle our children.
It would be hard for us to be better moms, yeah. So if we're going to have equal relationships, if men have to make more money, men have to be stronger so they can protect, what do women offer that could balance that out so it could be 50-50?
I don't know, but
That's a tough question, man.
But like her right there, like I'll do anything for her right there. You know what I'm saying? That's for sure. Yeah.
Honestly, man, like,
well, but
that's
to all the
a
women
tough
out
one.
there, to all the women out there, like, what can you offer me other than good relation? I would want my lady to, what I'm saying, be there for me and shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Honestly, man, hey, look, if they want us to earn the more money, you know what I'm saying, all that other stuff like you just mentioned, bro, like, they gotta do the same for us. They expect. Look, they want X, Y, and Z. We gonna expect the same thing. If they want equality, same thing. And there ain't no disrespect at all.
All right. So relationships are partnerships, like you said, right? And so in partnership, let's say you're gonna start a business, and in this business, you brought your talents, your skills were at a certain level, and someone else wanted to go into business with you. And when they wanted to go into business, they say they only could bring 50% of what you were bringing. Okay. All right, 50%, 75% of what you were bringing. They couldn't max it out. And would you go into business with that person? And they wanted to have 50% ownership in the business, but you were doing more work.
No.
It's like that. Would you find that would be like a bad deal?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like I don't want to do that. Okay. So, today, you have friends, other ladies, right? And you have conversations, and a lot of times ladies will have a list of things like, this is what my man needs to do, right? You need to have this. Have you ever had a friend that says, hey, I got this whole list, this is what I bring to a man, this, and this?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm. Do you have a list like that?
See, but sure. I haven't thought about it though because I've been in a relationship for so long. So.
Right. Well, that's when it's even more important, right? When you're in a relationship, because you need to be, because you can be consistent in providing those things. Thank you for the honesty. So, okay, so women want guys typically women want guys to make more money. All right, so the gentlemen usually fund the relationship, and they also want the man to be stronger so he can offer protection. So he's offering those things. What do ladies in general, so not yourselves, but what do ladies in general offer to the relationship to equal that out, to make it 50-50?
To make it 50-50.
Yeah,
To being a strong man and making money.
So my question is for ladies today, because we want a guy that's stronger. We want a guy that makes more, a guy that can be a leader. These things. What do, like today? So for yourself, what do you say that you bring to the relationship that's unique to balance it out? So it's 50-50. If he makes more, he's stronger, he's the leader, he does this, but he helps with all the traditional things that are feminine and does the things that are masculine. How do you balance it out to make sure that you're providing him with a 50-50 relationship?
Oh, tough questions here. You making me think.
What's the benefit today for men to be married?
Okay. So first section we went through. The first question we go through, and we get that women want equality. Everybody wants equality, 50-50. Problem is that there are things that women want men to bring that are in excess of what they bring.
Yeah.
And they don't have a response for that.
So they don't actually want equality, right? They want, and I said this for years, bro. You know we have a mutual friend, Brent, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He always said, this is way back in 2013, we were hanging out.
Like that.
He would always say, chivalry is dead and AD is the one who shot it, right? He would always say that, right? Because I noticed back then, women, they say they want equality, but then they also want chivalry, right? And I'm going to just say it. I'm not going to use the word bitches, but chivalry is essentially special treatment for women, right? That if we had to boil it down this way, so it's like the two can't coexist in a society, and if you want them to coexist, then you have to call a spade a spade. You have to say, hey, I want to be treated equal in these situations, but in these situations, right, I expect that a man does more, right? And so it's like I've always been flabbergasted that we can't just come out and have an honest conversation about that, right? And that's basically what I think we're seeing right here.
Yeah, and so this may be a thing we table for later. I want to bring up the topic, why aren't women honest about what they want? Because I think there's a lot of good theories about that.
Why they are or not.
Why they are not.
Okay.
And my theory is that they don't fully understand what it is they want. Not in the cliche, women don't know what they want. Like, what do you want to eat? I don't know what not like that, but like,
are you telling women they don't know what they want?
You can't say that.
Are you challenging me?
Yeah, actually, so I did take a note about that. And so this is purely coming from an understanding, looking at, stereotypically speaking, rather say men, very, logical, kind of like concrete, women, typically more like abstract emotion, right? And instead of looking at like positive or negative, I think it's just different, right? And so the thing of it is, women are great at like feeling things. They're very in tune with how they're feeling in the moment. I think those situations where you're talking about, you had something along the lines of like, if like a, I don't know, dude broke in or something like that. You said something like the man started crying before the woman, something like that. Like, would you lose respect for him or something along those lines? She said, I don't know. I think because it's like, trying to cognitively think about that in the moment, I don't know. But I feel like if that happened, you asked woman in the moment, how does she feel? I don't know. Just say like, you know what I mean? Like it'd be a feeling, and you have to feel that feeling versus us. It's like the logic, you know what I mean? Because we're stopping and thinking about it versus if there was an emotion-based situation that comes up, it may be hard to decipher what you're feeling in that moment. You know what I mean? It's just the other side of that coin. But I say all that to say is I think part of the challenge with women is that a lot of this movements and with modern things, feminism, it's like these concrete ideas. And I'll say this because I know people see differently. I think it's certain parts of feminism gone wrong. I had all those specifiers on there so we don't get canceled.
Certain parts of feminism gone wrong.
Yeah, essentially, I'll say, we'll just narrow it to as certain aspects of modern women, like ideologies and mentalities, such as like the independent, that kind of thing. I think it's this idea without following it through, looking at the consequences or the trade-off, like I said earlier, and women processing how that feels like all around. What does that emotion feel? Not just how does this logically sound, because again, men, we're wired to look at it logically, and not that women aren't logical. We cannot, both genders can obviously do both, but I think it's like putting these logical things towards women versus, and that's, they're doing their best to answer, but it's like if you ask them how they're feeling when those feelings come up, that's where I think the honesty is.
But you know why?
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Well, it is more about feelings, because the way that they experience the world is completely different than the way that we do.
Yes.
And we, like the guys, you saw that they wanted to be more honest, but they knew that they could only speak certain ways. Yeah. Because they understand. So they're trying to say the right thing. So it took them so long to get that thing out, and it was watered down. But you should have heard the conversation after the camera went off, because it was completely different.
Yeah.
Because,
locker room talk.
Yeah, because they can actually say what they feel. But you know why women don't like to admit that they're wrong? Do you know why?
Go ahead and tell us.
Because it doesn't feel good. They want to do things
Where's
that
the
make
sound
them.
effect for that?
They want
You know what? I don't have one for that. Let me look one up. That's a damn good answer.
Put a Lil John what?
Because it's really about how things make them feel. Because, and remember, we have to be opposite of them. It always has to be opposite. So you got logic on one side, or just non-emotional or less emotional. On the opposite side, you have what? And so
I don't know, like cognitive versus emotional, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. You would know the terminology better than I do, right? But they have, but it has to be opposite. And so they're looking for things that if something doesn't feel good, then it is wrong.
Sure, and I think that's why the idea of just making more money, and then you know what I mean. Like that's what I said before. Just like that's why context is so important, right? We're gonna start having hashtags. Context is key. Saying, would you like to?
Y'all are really trying to keep this shit going.
Because I just wrote something down specifically. So that question that comes up, because I know other channels will ask one, do you want a man that makes more than you? It's kind of like that in and of itself. Like, would women say, I want a man that makes less than me? Because there's a difference between being okay with something and wanting it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because again, do I want cake? Yeah, cake is good. I mean, unless you're not a dessert person, maybe that's something else. But it's like, is it worth the trade-off? Because and this is good, get into another segment, but I was thinking, okay, what is the trade-off or what is the equivalent of this for men, right? So for men, maybe it's something
do I want a woman with smaller breasts?
Or, I mean, essentially, it's like, would I want
a 10 out of 10?
Would I want a woman who's of higher attractive in the looks, right? And maybe even works harder to maintain that for as long as possible.
I think all men would say
yeah, right. And so, but if you think about, and let me position this to a question. I want y'all to answer. So, if you were speaking to a random group of, let's say, 100 guys, right, and they had all been dating, let's say, 6 out of 10s, whatever their version of a 6 out of 10 is, woman, and they are wanting to get 9s and 10s out of 10s, what would you say they should be expecting? What should they anticipate going from dealing with, let's say, 5s and 6s to 9s and 10s?
Oh, they're going to need
more difficult.
Well, they're going to have to deal with more entitlement, and they're going to have to spend more money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what you will see is that,
and more competition.
Yeah, that as well. And so I don't know if you would identify as mature men with experience, or more high value men. They know that, they accept that, and that's why they're content with a solid, maybe like a 7 or something, right? They ain't gonna settle with a 4 just because she cool.
I'm settling in one area, right?
Yeah.
In order to not have to deal with the stuff that comes as a trade-off.
Because they understand the trade-off. And, of course, there's a bunch of men who clearly don't understand that.
So you would say modern women don't really understand trade-offs?
Yes.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
Because
in a nutshell,
it doesn't feel good to have to give up something for another. It doesn't feel right.
It sure don't.
And here's my thing, bro. When we get into the word, because we're talking around the word settling, right? Like, if what you want is so astronomically unreal, right, versus what's actually out there and available for marriage, right? Is it really settling? You know what I'm saying?
I had a lady when we were out doing the interviews last night, the tall one.
Yeah.
She wanted a husband. Cool. She also wanted a boyfriend. Okay? And she also wanted a girlfriend.
Maybe 3 separate people.
Yes.
Okay.
And she wanted everyone to know and everybody to be cool. And she also wanted the men that she dealt with to make more money.
Okay. Yeah, that's. I mean, starting from the first three things, the three people she wanted, that was already
Oh,
unrealistic.
she could do it. She could.
She was gorgeous?
She was. Okay, so I thought she was in her 20s. She was 37.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was. Well, I mean, with those heels on, she was like 6'1".
Probably 6'1".
So most guys would put her at a 7. Most guys would put her at a 7. But she's nice 39
legs.
now. Oh yeah, absolutely. But but 10 years ago, they probably would have been talking about that she's an 8.
Okay.
So she could get that. The guy would just need to make a little bit less money. He would need to be a little less attractive, and she could do it. She just doesn't want to deal with the
You
people.
think she'd be able to find a guy who's willing to marry her and let her have a boyfriend and a girlfriend on the side that he's aware of?
Absolutely, if she gave up the caliber of man that she desired.
That trade-off, like you can do all that, but you're not gonna have. It's not gonna be the whole package.
So if she looking the way she did, the 42-year-old that works at McDonald's, he'll put up with anything.
Okay.
He's a fry guy.
Yeah.
She can do that.
She'd have a guy that don't nobody else want as a husband, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, because she's a 7, so she could dip down to a 4, or a guy that's like just barely made it over into a 5, and he would deal because she would have the leverage. Now, that's one thing I think a lot of ladies don't like, leverage. They don't like that. And so I'm like, well, you have the leverage. You can go to a guy who's a 5 who only makes 5 out of 10 money, who looks like a 5 out of 10, has 5 out of 10 confidence and leadership and everything else you want. And you'll have all the leverage because you're a 7. You could just, hey, this is what I want to do. If you want it, you can have me. And she talked to 10 guys, and one of them would tell her, absolutely. Done. And she could have a boyfriend, and because guys really don't care. The boyfriend, hey, sure, cool. That's good with me. He could look better. He could make more money. She just wouldn't get it. And then she could have a girlfriend up until the girlfriend found a guy who wanted to lock everything down because he would eventually want to do so. But if she gave up the caliber of men that she wanted, she could get the situation
But
she
is
wanted.
that a trade-off that she's willing to make?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And she's going to push through because she's 37 now. She's going to continue to push through until there are no options.
That's essentially what they do. Kevinsamuels said when your man options go to 0, and they really don't believe that there's a day when that happens. But I do want to go back to another question. What was it? Do you want your man to make more, less, or equal? Right? I almost felt like you gave them too many options. I almost felt like it should, but for the context of the question, you had to give equal. So, but what's interesting is I know guys, right, and I know women who have been in relationships with guys who care about women making more money than them. Right? What they don't understand is those are typically not the kind of guys that you want because those end up being the Jodies and the baby boys of the world, right? She makes so much, right, that I can extract something from her. I can give her some good D, right? And then I can use her for her money. Those are typically the kind of guys that you're going to get, you know what I'm saying, who care about your money in general. So I think in general, I don't know if they want it or not, but most women would do better with a man who does not care about what their income is, right? But they'll tell you that they actually want a man, or they'll tell you that men should value and respect high-earning women.
Because that feels good.
Yeah. And you know what? The other thing, and this is getting into the societal part of it, is like the other part of it is, okay, check this out. I feel like for most women, it's the standard is, going to college, right? Maybe there's a little bit of women can do it too if at every time there is that insecurity of some stereotype, I'm not as smart as a man, that kind of thing, right? And so going to college education really is seen as an accomplishment in and of itself, regardless of context, right? Even more so, you're doing these things you're told. You're told don't rely on a man. You're told go get that degree. You're told don't have to depend on a man, right? And so to get into that space, right or wrong, this is what society is telling you. This is the correct thing to do. And then you actually stand out in that. So you're doing well in the field where you're told this is the right thing to do. And then, dude comes along and it's like, oh, I don't care about your money. It's like, what?
What is that?
You know what I
Would
mean?
that be cognitive dissonance? Is that
Not even that, but I'm just saying that we have to look
Kinda.
at with these dynamics. We have to look at how society, pushes women this way, and I don't mean just like women pushing women to do that. Society, it's like again, it's seen as a standard.
It's
or
almost
norm.
something that you could say is not their fault. Like for the
yes,
way that they
that-
believe,
yes.
things they believe is not really their fault. 'Cause they're doing what they were taught.
We're not taught to think. We're taught to accept ideologies and ideas. So people, critical thinking.
You think too
is-
much, you become a conservative.
This guy.
So
We'll see you guys next week on that.
they're just But let's finish out this video.
Yeah.
Because let's finish watching it. And
Are we gonna finish the entire thing?
Yeah, let's finish it out.
Okay. How much we got left, Jay? Yeah. Okay.
And take it back about 10 seconds if you can, so we can jump into this next segment.
These things. What do like today? So for yourself, what do you say that you bring to the relationship that's unique to balance it out? So it's 50-50. If he makes more, he's stronger, he's the leader, he does this, but he helps with all the traditional things that are feminine and does the things that are masculine. How do you balance it out to make sure that you're providing him with a 50-50 relationship?
Oh, tough questions here. You're making me think.
What's the benefit today for men to be married?
I would say benefit for me to be married. I mean, I don't see nothing wrong with it.
What benefits does a marriage have for men today?
That would have been me years ago. I would have given an answer.
I just need a woman to hold me down. If you want.
It depends. I mean,
We had this conversation before.
I don't know, man. I don't know, bro. Look at it. So
I feel like women, 90% of men, we know what they go after, and there's only one thing. You know what I'm saying? But women know they got that power. You know what I'm saying? So they higher their standards. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I feel. But I love all women. Just saying.
What's the benefit for men to be married today?
The benefit is they have to be in a committed relationship with one person who is going to give them love, loyalty, and consistency. That's the benefit.
What's the number one thing that men want?
Sex. I was about to say vagina, pussy. That's what they want.
Do you ladies know what the number one thing men want is?
Sex, security,
I would say respect.
respect. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that right?
It is just a couple of degrees off, but there's a reason why you're married. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you dated a man for 3 years and he did not know what the most important thing to you was, do you think he cared?
No. Because if it's important to you, you're going to talk about it a lot.
How you dated me for 3 years and you don't know the most important thing to me?
Right.
Or even my favorite color. Like, what's wrong? What am I doing?
Like,
So I'm gonna tell you guys. Well, have you? So you've had almost 2 years and 3 years. Have you ever asked your guys what was the one most important thing that you want me to provide for you?
no.
I've never asked provide, but I mean, that's a different question. You ask what's important.
Yeah. What's the most important thing that you can provide in the relationship that you can provide for?
But you said, so what's the most important thing and what's the most important thing you can provide are two different things. In my opinion.
Well, we'll stick with it. The most important thing in a relationship for him.
Yeah, I have before. Like, I have asked to do that. The dude I was in a 3-year relationship with, I knew what was most important to him.
Okay, and what was that?
It was definitely his dad in football. Definitely.
Football. Well, within your relationship.
Within our relationship, I don't know, because we was together for so long, and it was a long time ago. Like,
I can't say that I've ever asked that question.
If you were in the relationship for 3 years,
Okay.
and the woman that you were with didn't know what the most important thing to you was, would you say that she cared?
no, because she would have known by then.
Yep.
If that question was asked to your boyfriend, and he didn't know the number one most important thing to you, would you believe that he cared?
Well, I know that he would have the right answer, so I know that he cares.
Only to one thing
That's
is no.
happened to me, so I ain't feel like she was She was paying attention, you know, throughout our whole relationship or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So if you never asked that question, can you say that you care?
I feel like you can figure out what's most important to them without having to ask that question.
Well, I'll tell you.
That shows more respect.
I think you can just listening to them and learning them as a person, you can figure out what's most important to them.
But sex is not the number one thing.
Okay.
Okay. What about support?
Support.
Or care? No?
I would say
food.
Encouragement.
No.
Is it a hard one?
No, it's gonna be a big one because you ladies are married.
Ego?
No.
Why men want to be married?
Sex.
Is this the question?
No, it was the number one thing that men want.
That men
want in marriage.
To be satisfied?
To be stable, independent. Oh,
not independent.
Yeah.
To be codependent. Why is it such a hard question?
I don't know. Can you just tell us?
So I'll tell you, 90, 95, 98% of men, they all want the same thing. I say if you're in a relationship for 10 years and the person you were with didn't know the number one thing that you wanted, could you say that they care?
No.
Even with a long-term spouse, a lot of times people don't know what the number one thing is that the other person wants, which is sad. Have you ever asked what's the most important thing to you?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I've just directly asked that question to him.
I would recommend it. And then hopefully he could be 100% honest with you as well.
Yeah.
But it seems like today we're looking at that relationships today are a bit more selfish than they used to be. And so we can wonder. So you ask him that question, are you 100% sure what he'll say? Or will it be interesting?
I'm about to end this man's
I don't know if
career.
interesting would be the word, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Would you ladies like to know the number one thing for guys in general? This is 95% plus the guys. Then you have to watch the podcast. Okay. Okay.
I was wondering where you're going to give them the answer. That was funny.
Yeah, we need a drum roll, man.
So, as you see, women want equality in relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say that. They love the idea because the idea feels good.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't want that. They want men to provide more than they provide. If you ask a lady what she wants, because we know that women want men who make more money.
Mm-hmm.
The women who have the options, the ones that look a certain way or who make money, go to try to exercise those options. Because I've never, in my broke days, had a nice lady come up and ask me if I wanted a car, try to pay my bills, take care of me at all. And that's going to be the experience with most men. It's just self-evident. You can just
You ain't had no sugar mama?
I have not had a sugar mama. No.
Man, that's crazy. Me neither. Anyway.
So let me ask this. You said the reason why women. So what I'm hearing is they don't actually want equality. They'll tell you they want equality. I guess maybe you've already answered this. Why is what they're asking for and what they actually want so drastically different?
Because they never thought about it.
I think it's not thought out all the way through.
And they've been lied to as well.
Yeah.
They've been lied to because they've been taught that they were like a computer. You can get
So let's say
programmed
we go
anyway.
back 100 years. It's 1920.
Blame society.
Do you think that women back then would have said that they wanted equality, like the married women? If you had asked these same questions, what do you think?
So pure speculation. I think that they would have thought, for at least the context of marriage, because other aspects within the context of marriage, I think they would have said it is equal.
I think they would have said. I think they would have said. Yeah. I think they would have said. Hell no. If you were asking from the perspective, do you want to go to work, ma'am? Would you like to? I know you're sitting here, sending the kids off to school. Would you like to go to work? I have never met a lady who was excited on Monday morning. I just haven't.
That's true.
And we talk about
most
careers.
people aren't excited.
Yeah, most people die on Monday morning.
Yep.
Because they don't want to go to work.
That's a sensitive subject. Please don't mention that. It's Sunday.
I'd rather die than go to work.
Yeah, and it's not suicide. It's just literally people just going, you know what? forget this because most people are not excited. Most people don't have amazing careers. Most people don't work at NASA. They're not astronauts. They're not doing anything cutting edge. They're working at the bank.
That's a topic in and of itself, by the way.
And once again, asking for your financial support.
That's what they're doing.
Ooh, man, coming in high. Yeah. So the reason I say that, the man is equal is in the sense that, okay, they understand. They understand the trade-off. You know what I mean? He's going to work, and I'm specifically thinking about one set of my grandparents. Husband, he's going to work, financially providing, disciplinarian for the kids, for that matter. She's take care of the kids, making sure the home is straight. It's like, he provides the home and like the resources, and she kind of like manages the home and the resources. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be inclined to think they would have saw that as fair. And so I think now talking about, like 50-50, again.
We can say that modern women are more delusional than their grandparents, right? Because they be asking for, if they were to get fair, they quickly give it back.
Oh yeah.
If they got equal men of equal strength, equal money, equal leadership, equal all of that, they'd find those men less attractive.
Well, yeah, they don't want them. Go ahead.
So, a question that popped in my mind is, if you asked a bunch of men that question about 50-50, how would they respond? Because one thing is, when we look at benefits of what you get out of a relationship, from the other person, I think with society as a whole, we're more inclined to think about finances than before because it's not trending well. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I think, women will see, again, that provision. So they're seeing value in terms of what people get out of relationships. The focus is on finances, right? Mm-hmm. But for men, that's not the case. So I guess if you ask men 50-50, I'd be curious what would be their thoughts, because they're probably not thinking in finances.
Yeah, these guys we just asked, like, what's the benefit of marriage? They could not think of anything.
Yeah.
Right.
The men could not. He said, I don't see nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
because
it couldn't hurt.
You literally cannot think of a reason, a benefit, because I said there are no benefits. What is it? Up to 30% of children born inside of a marriage are right and not the biological children of the husband.
Dang.
And he doesn't know.
I've never heard that, bro. He got these crazy statistics.
We need to pull up these stats.
14 to 30%. Yeah. That's up to 30%, just not. So marriage doesn't lock you in and doesn't protect you, because now a woman can cheat on you, get pregnant, file divorce, take the house, get alimony, child support, okay? Even though the kid is not yours, it does not matter.
Yeah. So I'm a read, unless you want to add something. I'm gonna rewind a little bit,
because so I'm just gonna make this comment. Okay.
Yeah.
So we hear so many people talk about, marriage. Is there any benefits, right? My answer is very logical. Yes, there are, right? Now, I would say it's more risky today than it's ever been. And subjectively, you could say the risk outweighs the reward for me. So there's that. But just in general, married men live longer, they make more money. Right? Just those two things. And you can say, well, I can live long and be healthy and make a lot of money being single. Yeah, but typically the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, the richest men that we see, they typically are married, right? So I think it's disingenuous if we say that there are no benefits to marriage. You can definitely say the what do you call it? The cons outweigh the pros for sure. But unless we come to a time in society where most of the guys on top are unmarried, I just don't see it realistically being true that there are no benefits to marriage.
Well, right, I want to have that.
I knew he was going to have a rebuttal. That's why I said, okay, now back to coattail.
Well, what I want to, man, cop out. Say, I was going to say, I think that's something to be a whole discussion in and of itself, because my biggest thing that I'm thinking about more and more in marriage is kind of how it's like essentially three different dynamics tied in at once, because there's the relational kind of social aspect of it, like I'm like emotionally committing to this person long term per se, and that's kind of where we get into these dating questions. That's where that comes up. But then we talk about the risk of financial loss. That's more of the legal part of it. And I think I said this to you like a week or two ago. I said, you know what? If you sit back and think about it, that is really weird to have a tradition that is tied up with a social, relational, emotional component and a legal and kind of financial component, and for not everyone, most people, it's also religious, spiritual component. All of that is tied into the exact same thing. That is weird. I can't think of anything else we do that all of that is tied in, and especially anywhere near that magnitude.
Well, it's so only recent. It's recent though. With the legal side, that's recent. It didn't used to write.
And I think that's a huge thing, which is why I think that could be its own thing.
Okay.
But
I want to hear your rebuttal though. But we got to end the show. But
I want to have closing thoughts about it.
Go ahead. So for the top 5% of men, yes, but for the majority of men working in retail, things like that, it's going to be a big difference, and it doesn't keep people there longer. Married men live longer because of the relationship and the support they get in a relationship. It has nothing to do with the legal contract.
Oh, of course.
So when I say there's no benefit, I mean in making that covenant and the promise and working through things and deciding you're going to be together, absolutely. But in that,
the legal aspect of
it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. If we're talking about, for sure.
Then that's what I mean. It is a one-sided contract.
Yes.
That incentivizes one party to break it. And so I would say if you got a guy who makes decent money, he's a business owner, and he does his thing and he builds himself up just from scratch, and then he gets a woman and he does not marry her, she's more likely to stay with him because she has less incentive to leave.
Yep. Agreed.
That's a good point.
Agreed.
Okay. And so closing thoughts on are modern women stingy? Do they?
I mean, based on the data, when we're talking to modern women, I would say I mean, stingy is a strong word. Obviously, I know that's why I picked it. But I mean, do they want equality? No. In certain aspects, they want men to bring more to the table than themselves. I don't know if we necessarily got into the aspect of sharing. Their resources. We didn't really get into that.
Yeah.
But at the very least, and hell, maybe we title this something else.
Well, I'm gonna just interject real quick. Well, if sharing, they want their man to make more money, so they're not interested in sharing because they would then go make the money.
So we're kind of making an inference based off of.
Okay. I mean, this is all this is really done. Right, and I didn't see me and you did not see this footage in advance. Right, it's it's only solidified more what I believe to be true about modern women.
Yeah. So, there's not realistic expectations there. The thing I was going to make is the topic of settling came up. I think when we talk about settling, when you tell a man don't settle, it's something like work or career. The basic way is to work harder, right? Women are talking about with men don't settle. That doesn't often seem to entail work harder. So I just choose differently. You know what I mean? There's not as much work or effort tied to it. It just be more selective. And yes, there's some effort, but it's different. So I would say that, to all the really everybody, but especially ladies out there with wanting these different things, relationships, that's fine. You can want whatever you want, right? You're entitled to doing that. However, you cannot be entitled to things you haven't earned. So if you want this person to do all of these different things, be stronger, financially provide all these things, it's fine to want that. What are you willing to do to get that? That's my thoughts.
And then I thought it was really interesting how one of the girl that was soon to be married, when she said the guy wants to make more money because and she tied that in.
Which one was soon to
the
be
two
married?
married girls. The two.
Oh yeah, the bride.
She said that he wants to make more money, and she tied it into him being respected. I thought that was interesting because she just went ahead. She just tied that in there, and the married girls, you could tell the difference in mindset. What's the number one thing they want? That first girl, she's like, oh, respect. That was the first thing. It's like it's not the first thing. It's a couple of degrees off, but you're pretty close.
Yeah, and, you have an idea, and it is important. She's up there,
very much so. Birds of a feather flock together. So watch who the friends are. Because these are two friends, and they got married. But I do think it shows that they want more than they want to give. They want everything that they give, they need to receive. But everything that they get, they don't have to reciprocate. Yeah. And they demand the things that they refuse to reciprocate. Right. And I think that is what this video shows. And I think it's a small sample, but I think we could go anywhere in the country and we would have the same results. So when you ask, are modern women stingy when it comes to relationships, when it comes to 50-50 partnerships, I would have to say, yeah.
And if you tie the question like that, yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
I'd agree. All right. Well, I guess we're signing off till next time. We'll see you guys next time. We got to come up with a signing off thing to say.
Yeah. Thank you for watching
Peace.
the other guys.
Thank you for watching. Hey, I'm gonna be like Kevinsamuels. Get my likes up.
Yeah, something like
Get
that.
my likes up, baby.